Get ready for another video in Alex's garage. Alright, so today we're just going to go over where I've gotten to on the cooling system on the 1977 MGB. The 77 has two integrated fans in the front, electric fans. Some of the older models, when you get upgrade kits, you can see that they sell the single large fan, and they have a little controller back here that you can connect. That one actually, some of those have the ability to change the temperature that you want the fans to kick off on, but in this case on the 77 they're integrated. So what we've done today is I installed these fans and the fan shroud. If you're interested, I think somebody had mentioned that they wanted me to show how things come apart. This fan on this side, it has one bolt right here, and then the second bolt is on the riser right there. I don't know if you can see it. It's on that vertical riser. So there's like an L-shaped bracket that holds this fan in. This other fan is just two bolts, one here, one right there, and it holds it in place. One of the things that I had to do, putting the fans in prompted doing some wire management, and so I went through and managed all the wires from the main wiring harness down here. And what I did was I put a zip tie in this little channel right here, and I ran that main wiring harness as best I could right along this channel. Now right here is where the connectors for the fans are. It's odd that they made me kind of loop it back, but there's a single connector, and then there's a third connector that just kind of hovers. So I looped it back, and I just have it kind of sitting in there. I don't know why there would be a third connector. Anybody has any idea about that? There's not enough room to put a third fan. But anyway, one of the other things I did is I painted the fans. I put them outside and I spray painted them black. I didn't want to be able to see those fan motors from the front. So pretty much anything that's behind this grill I've been painting black, just to minimize the impact. Of course now I have nice yellow fan blades, but when they're running you won't see them, and so I think that looks pretty good. That came out all right. It did prompt me to go ahead and connect all the wires. You can see in here all the wires that go to the turn signals. Here we go. Yeah, all the wires that go to the turn signals and whatnot, because I had to manage the bundle. So that wiring bundle, and again, same thing, zip tie right here, it holds everything all together. So all that will be out of the way, and the fans won't hit them, and you won't be able to see them through the grill. All right, so the next thing was, had to put this fine radiator in there. This is a great project. I really enjoyed polishing this. It has a nice flare to have the polished top. It came out real good. The radiator is only connected with 4 bolts. One down here, one here. The top bolts they're longer than the bottom bolts. They have an extra nut that holds this bracket on. So if you want to know how to take the radiator off, you got to take this nut off, and then you have to take the bolt off, and the bolt goes this direction. Same thing on this side. One bolt on the top that's longer, and a bolt on the bottom down here that holds it all in place. I also, while I was working with the wiring loom, I decided I'm going to put this loom and kind of hide it under the channel up here, and then do an elbow to take it under the fuse box right here. The idea behind that is the expansion tank goes right here, and so I didn't want to have wires all rubbing on everything, so that way the expansion tank will be the only thing that's right here. Now I'm going to post a picture of what the expansion tank used to look like. The prior owner had a piece of canvas strapping holding it in. I don't think that was standard installation, so I decided to go ahead and make my own. I went online to Moss. The bracket for that is $23, but it looks kind of hideous, octagonal, and I just didn't like it. So I made my own bracket. Let me show you what that looks like. Well, first off, here's what the old one looked like, so you can get an idea. So here's the old bracket. See, it was just like a cargo belt or something that somebody had converted, threw a couple washers and some nuts on. Those went through those holes and held the thing on. It was kind of wobbly. I imagine it vibrated. But anyway, this is the new bracket. I had some fun bending a piece of metal. I wanted it to look pretty much like the expansion tank. So I made little slots to grab the little ears on the sides. And on this end, I made a slot. So once you get it in there, you can slide it back and forth and adjust the tightness just with this here. So you don't have any external brackets, any external screws, just a strap going across. And it's very minimalist, but you can adjust the tightness with this slider right here. Let's go ahead and install that thing. All right, there we go. Just kind of lightly installed. It's not torqued or anything. Obviously, we don't want to tighten these down until after we get the expansion tank in there. But I just want to demonstrate. This is how it tightens. You can see the slider gives you the ability to move this back and forth, and that will close up these little ears and grab the tank. So now we are going to put a little piece of rubber between the tank and the strap just to keep any vibrations down. And I think I'll put a little bit of padding right here just to keep these edges from working the back. I don't think the screws are going to be touching, but anyway, let's go ahead and put that tank in there. All right, there you go, nice and snug. Thing isn't going anywhere. See, we've got a little rubber strap here between that, and a little bit of padding back here. The access to the bolts are right there. You can see. Really easy to get to right here from the passenger side wheel well. So let's move on to the next thing, which is the water pump. Let me clean up that surface. It's been sitting for a while. Get it nice and clean, and then we'll throw the water pump on there. All right, so first thing with anything that has a gasket on there is make sure all your surfaces are clean. There's no burrs, there's no rust or foreign debris on there. Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to get a seal, not only from the gasket, but from the gasket dressing. In this case, we're going to use some water pump thermostat gasket dressing. This stuff is resistant to glycol, and it'll be able to manage that surface a lot better. Now this gasket, although it has 5 holes, only 4 of them are for screws. As you can see in here, this hole is a bypass that allows for expansion. When you turn the car off and the pump's no longer pumping, you want to let stuff flow through there. Also, the heater hose comes in right here, so that's another way that it can bypass right into the engine housing right there, the water jacket. This goes right to the water jacket and bypasses the pump. So anyway, when you're putting this gasket on, just make sure, whoops, that you have it on the right way, that you don't get any gasket sealer in this hole. You don't want to create any damage or have anything moving around inside there. So when you put your gasket sealer on it, use a conservative amount. All you're trying to do is get this gasket to seal. You're not trying to create a gasket. This is Gasket Maker, but we're not going to make a gasket because we actually have the gasket. All right, so let's put some goo on there. And I already got one of these open. Take a little pokey thing, poke the hole. I'm going to put a little bit of goo on the flat surfaces, and we're going to let it run. All right. Now I'm going to use my finger. I'm going to smear this around. Make sure I don't get it on anything that I don't want it on. but I still got a good even coverage. Yeah, here I am saying not to do something and I do it myself. Alright, that's pretty good even coverage. You don't want to get goo all over the place. Alright, so aside from getting a good seal, one of the other things that putting a gasket dressing does is it makes it so you don't have to fiddle fart around with the gasket when you're putting it on there. It's basically glued on at this point, and so you don't have to worry about getting anything married up or matching up when you put it into place. Alright, we got a good seat. Everything's nicely sealed. Now I'm going to go ahead and take and put a light amount of this on the outside of this gasket. That way I don't have to smear it all over the engine block. There you go. Good smear. Make sure all the holes are lined up. Let's bolt this baby in place. So there's two different size bolts. You can see on either side of this outlet or the inlet pipe right here, there's the shanks are much taller, and then on the smaller ones, that's where the smaller bolts go. These are 5/16 by 24. They are fine thread. So just in case you're thinking that you can just pick these up at your regular hardware store, you're probably mistaken. They're not going to be that easy to find. All right. So a little note. In a previous video, when I was preparing the engine, you might remember that I retapped all of those bolt holes. The water pumps are one of those things that wear out a lot, and when they start to leak, people tend to just torque down the bolts, and they're likely to get over torque. So you know, don't be shy to run a thread cleaner in there, or even in my case, I put thread inserts in there after I re-drilled those holes. So I should have a really good thread going into these. A major advantage to the 77 over some other models, whoops, I got the wrong size, is the clearance that you have here. You don't have a fan, and the fans are on the other side of the radiator. The only thing you would have is a pulley right here, so you have a lot of room to work. Some of the earlier models have a fan up front. You have to take the fan off. And the radiator, I believe, is a little bit further forward. So you have, in order to take the water pump off on many cars, you end up taking the radiator out as well because you don't want to damage the radiator. But that's not the case in this one. All right, let's get a little bit of torque on these. Feels like about 30 pounds. Okay, and that's the water pump installed. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to install this, you can see, this is the heater control valve. I did a video on how to revamp your heater control valve. If you're interested in that video, go look it up. It's really pretty cool. There is, what you'll gain from that video is the ability to get some really good play out of this control right here. So you'll be able to open and close all the way, so you don't have you have a good strong heater and you won't have a heater on all the time. Also, there won't be any leakage. So there's a whole thing about the gasket here and the plunger. So check out that video when you have a chance. I'll put a link to it if I can. All right, let's get this baby installed. All right, so in this case, I don't have a gasket for this device, so I'm going to do a real quick little demonstration on how to make a gasket. I have rolls of this stuff laying around. This is, I don't know if you can see the sheen. It's all, it's paper, but this is impregnated, so it's more waterproof than just a regular paper gasket. But anyway, so the trick here is just to make a gasket that looks like the thing that you want to get a good seal on. So save a little material here. Line this up. Draw a little line around it. All right, an idea of where the holes are going to be. All right, and there's your gasket. You can see what it's going to look like. Real quick with some scissors. Round this piece off. There, happy little gasket, as Bob Ross would say. All right, so what I got here is a little hole punch. These, the hardest part about making a gasket is making the holes, right? But if you got a hole punch, it becomes a slam dunk. Boink. Just like a pro. All right, so you want to find the edge of the arc. That should be our gasket. Let's see what that looks like. Wow, just like store-bought. All right, so we got a hole in here. We know about what size this is going to be. It's in the center. I draw a line between the two holes. Draw a line between here. Let's get a measurement. That's about the size that we're looking for. It's a good template. Put that baby right in the middle where the cross is. All right, we get a hole there, and we'll be magic. So you don't have to just have one size hole. If you have the edge, you can just clip around the edge with this until you get enough of it consumed. And just nibble at it. There you go. Gasket 101. All right, let's stick this thing on there and get it on the car. Being careful not to over torque. One of the things you'll notice that made it really easy is I don't have my distributor in yet. Be sure to subscribe when I'm gonna replace that distributor. I've decided to go with the Fireball, so that'll be kind of a fun install. And I want to go over some stuff about the geometry on this bracket here. So again, make sure if you're not already subscribed to subscribe so you can get a hold of that. The next thing I need to do on this is throw the thermostat on, and then it's all pipes and tubing. So I'm going to do a little something different with the pipes on this. The original 77, I should say, when I got this car out of the barn, the heater return valve, the pipe went under the carburetor and came up down here. A lot of other vehicles you'll see where they put a pipe across here, and I think that's what I'm going to be inclined to do. However, let me show you what that pipe looked like. Here's that nasty old pipe. So on the 77, the lower radiator pipe comes off askew. It kind of goes away from the engine. If you can see where the T is right here, it almost wants to go under the carburetor. In this case, you can see the design of this T wants it to go that way. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a little different configuration, and I'm going to put a T right here, and I'm not going to get the one for the 77. I think I'll get one for a 74, and we'll see if we can get one that has a different T off right here. And I'm gonna plumb a piece of custom piping through here to the heater, and I want to keep it over the top. I don't like this configuration, and a couple of reasons. First of all, when you put the carburetor on there, you've got another bit of stuff over here. The airflow for the carburetor, I'm going to build a custom air box over here. So I want to get rid of this for that future installation. So that will be my next big customization. So I'm not going to do the piping today. We're just going to go over this. I'm going to walk you through the thermostat real quick. All right, so let's go over the thermostat. This right here is the thermostat that we're using. It says 160 Fahrenheit, 71 C. And if you didn't have the box and you wanted to see, whoops, did you see that? I don't know. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah, 160, 71 C. All right, so if you didn't have the box and you have a thermostat, let's say you're checking your thermostat and you wanted to see what it, you see on the bottom down here. I don't know if you can read that. Let's see if I can get close enough. Well, anyway, you can see the number 160 Fahrenheit 71C right there. I don't know if that's focusing or not. Anyway, that's where that goes. All right, you drop that baby right in there. You're going to put a gasket on here just like the other one. I don't have the cap, and I'm not ready to put the thermostat on yet, so I'm not doing that right now, and I'm not going to go through another gasket exercise. But that, in the nutshell, is the cooling system. I'll be doing a follow-up video on the pipes. I'm going to do some custom plumbing on the pipes here. We're going to do something different. I'm not just going to buy the typical parts. And for the pipes that goes from the heater to the engine, we're going to use a stainless steel braided heater pipes. They look nice, and they'll match the oil, which is also a stainless steel pipe. So you'll have nothing but stainless steel coming from the firewall. And that'll look really nice. So I got to get some parts for that before we get to that point. And we're going to do a little customization on the lower pipe coming out of the water pump. So stay tuned for that, and we'll see if we can get a really good solution on that. All right, so that's all I have today. I hope you enjoyed the video. This is the cooling system on the 1977 MGB. Just to recap, we went over the fan installation, a little bit of wiring management down here. We installed a custom bracket for the expansion pipe, installed the radiator. We went through water pump installation. We discussed the heater control valve. I'm not going to adjust that today. We're going to do that later because I haven't finished the other end of it in the cockpit. So anyway, and then we briefly touched on the thermostat. Once we get to that point, I'll probably do a short video on the thermostat, and that'll be that. So that's all we have for today. Hope you like everything. If you have any comments, questions, or remarks, please don't feel inhibited. Please do share all of your comments. I really appreciate them. And I also want to give a shout out to everybody who gives positive support. I really appreciate all your comments. Keep them coming. That's all I have. Have a good day.